even if you've not got the people yet, God is moving, the harvest is ripe, the workers are few.
I think selfishness stifles legacy. I don't think you can leave a legacy or instill legacy into others by being selfish.
We can't paint legacy as an organisation. It's a movement.
Welcome to the Lions Roar podcast. We are here for another exciting edition of our brand new podcast, and we are here to help you on your entrepreneurial journey. My name is Gemma, and I'm here to host today's podcast. We've got two brilliant guests with us today. We've got Shell Perris, who is the Lions leader, and we've got Gary Spicer, who's the executive director of Imagine the Day Ministries. Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming back and talking to me again today.
Welcome. It's good to be here.
It's great to be with you.
Right, guys. So today we are talking about building a business that outlives you. And we're talking about legacy. How important is legacy in business?
Well, I guess it's quite appropriate to talk to me about that as I get a little bit older, Gemma. But I think legacy is really important. First of all, we need to understand that legacy, I believe, is something that lives on beyond us and can carry on without us.
Yeah.
And I think, we can build a memory that people remember us, but it's not about remembering us. It's actually about a seed that we've sown that lives on and grows bigger and more effective than when actually we have delivered or led anything. And so I think, whether it's a business or a church or ministry, whatever it is, we need to start building always for our successor, our successors. I think, it's a test of our faith and strength in ourselves. I think that sort of belief often tests our insecurities too. So we kind of think, it took me so long to get here, I'm not giving it away now.
Yeah.
And God always says, well, it's not yours anyway. It's mine. And so I think that leaving a legacy is really important, but we have to plan for that.
Yeah.
And we have to prepare for that.
Yeah.
And we have to kind of think in our mind, what could be the process of, doing that? And we're not doing it so one day we die. We're doing it so one day something lives beyond us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember having a conversation with a Lions delegate a number of months ago, and we were talking about, do you want your project to die with you, or do you want it to live beyond you?
Yeah.
Because actually the way you set up or the way you make decisions or the way you appoint people is different depending on what the answer to that question is. Because if you want your business or project to live beyond you, you've got to get people in place who can take it on beyond you, who are almost better than you, who you want to see really succeed and you really want to invest in. If you want your business or project to die with you, then you don't need to think about things like that because it will just die with you. And so it does impact, depending on our answer to that question, it impacts. I want to build something that's going to live beyond me. I can't understand why you would not want to do that, why you would want to start something that dies with you, what if it can live beyond you. And so I want to appoint people who are better than me, who I could see running the organisation in years to come. I want to invest in people in that way. I want to make decisions that set something up, not just to finish when I die, but to live way beyond me. And I think that's actually a really important point to come to in our entrepreneurial journey. Do we want it to live beyond us?
Yeah.
Or are we willing to let it die with us?
There's a really good quote that says, your legacy is not just what you leave behind, but who you raise up while you're here.
Yes.
I also do think, God has a way, I've seen this happen, that sometimes, if it's an organisation or a ministry, it can cease when we pass. Because some people I've seen try to keep something going, either through sentiment, through false loyalty, when God said, that was for a season. And so, I want to kind of flip that a little bit. And it's not that legacy doesn't matter. What I'm saying is we can't paint legacy as an organisation. It's a movement.
Yeah.
Legacy is, building into people. I pastored 2 churches, and my first church I pastored, when I left that church, I'll be honest, I didn't really want to leave at that particular time, but, it was just circumstances, made it was time to move on. And I always remember thinking with sadness, really, that I'd left the church in a place where I hadn't finished,
Yeah.
if I'm honest. And I remember, thinking, oh, if I'd done this, if I'd done that, if I hadn't done this, it would have been much different. I remember God really speaking to me and basically naming people to me in that church and what they were doing and what they would do. And he said, that's your legacy. It's not the organisation or institution of the church. It's the living stones that were within that church and what they're now doing.
Right.
And that really helped me understand that legacy is not confined by an institution. It's about people's lives living on, and they can go to different places, different ways of serving and all the rest of it. And that really helped me kind of feel that, in one way I'd left well and also left legacy in people's hearts.
Yeah, that's a good example, actually. In Proverbs, it says we're building for generations. That's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I see that all the time with Alive.
Yeah.
With the kids that we work with, and we see, especially the festival programs that we do year in, year out, where, the same kids come each year and they grow up and then they move on to the youth program. And, one of my probably best moments a few years ago at Creation Fest was when one of the boys that had been in the festival program for so many years, he ended up being 14, and he came up to me and he said, "Shall I'm getting baptized today?" And he said, "I just want to thank you, because I wouldn't be where I am with Jesus if it wasn't for all the years of that you've sown into me and invested into me through the Creation Fest children's program."
Amazing.
And it was so lovely to think that, we'd had a part to play in him getting to that point in his life. And, even with my own kids, I want them to be, I honestly believe that my greatest calling as a mum is to enable my kids to go further than me.
Yeah.
Enable them to be everything that God's created them to be, not necessarily who I've got planned for them to be, but who God's got planned for them to be. But I want them to go further than me. I want them to run faster than me. I want them to do things that I've never dreamt of doing, because, almost they're building on my ceiling. And I don't see that as a threat to me. I don't see that as I haven't done a great job. I haven't, kind of reached the heights that I can reach. I just want to see people going further and faster.
Yeah.
And that's part of legacy. I always think about it like a brick wall. So if you imagine a brick, you've got 2 bricks either side, you've got 2 bricks at the top and you've got 2 bricks at the bottom. A brick's never on its own. It's always surrounded by bricks. And so if I'm the middle brick, I'm thinking about, okay, who are the 2 bricks above me that are investing into me? Who's investing into me? Who are the 2 bricks at the side of me who are walking alongside me? And who are the 2 bricks underneath that I'm investing into? And I think that's a great way of creating legacy and enabling others to create legacy in you.
That's great. I mean, legacy is often described as standing on the shoulders of giants. So what kind of people have been given that to you in your lives?
There's been a great number of people that have cheered me on. I've got to say that, we can often be a bit of a moaning kind of fraternity leaders, really. We're by ourselves, no one's for me. And I think we all go through our own pity parties. But when we stop and think, I'm only here because of great people that have cheered me on and believed in me. And I want to be that to others, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think it started probably when I was a lot younger. And I was in the church as a youth minister. And the senior pastor decided it was time for him to move on. And there was a group of elders at that time, all very mature and been pastors themselves. The church was, I don't know, about 300 people at the time. And I was on the leadership, but as the youth pastor and just a youngster, who, when important votes came in the leadership, could you go out the room sort of deal, those one of deals. But anyway, he left, and they tried to find another minister, and they went for a couple of people, and it just didn't work out. But then the previous pastor was asked by the eldership to pray who should be, his successor. And anyway, to cut a long story short, after 6 weeks, he rang me and we met, and he said, "You're the man." And it was a big shock to me because 1, I wasn't equipped, 2, I wasn't ready, 3, I thought he was joking. And prayed about it and decided to say yes in great trepidation. And I remember the evening came where he was going to share, he shared with the elders and they were shocked but went with it. But then he was to share with like the wider leadership. It was about 40 people in it. I always remember this upper room. And his words laid a legacy for me that night. I'll never forget it. He stood up and he just said, we've been praying. I'd moved on, but the elders have asked me to pray who my successor should be. And I prayed hard, and I've talked with a young guy, and I want to present tonight that Gary is going to be the new leader, pastor. And there was silence in the room. We can hear silence.
Yeah.
And as I sat there, everything was going on inside me. Oh no, what have I done? And then he said to the people, he said, Gary is going to be a great leader. It's going to take some time. He's going to be a great leader. But he's only going to be great if you make him great. And so he said, you have the responsibility to make Gary great pastor in this church and a great leader. And I'd never heard that before, and I never knew he was going to say that. But the kind of like, the people rose to it. And I've got to say, in the first years where, it was a bit of a struggle, confidence and lots of different things, challenges going on, learning how to pastor lead. But those people, without fault, never stopped cheering me on and believing in me. And so I sit here today as not just the legacy of that pastor that believed in me, but those people that cheered me on. And I think if I hadn't have had that start and those people believe me, I might not be sitting here today.
Yeah.
So I see that as great legacy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And it's the people that when you're at your lowest, that are the ones that gather around you and pick you up again. They're the people that instill legacy. The people who are prepared to sit with you in your darkest, deepest moments and see you through them and cry on their shoulders and all of that, they create legacy in you. It's the people who are cheering you on and who are the ones saying, keep going, you can do this, you can do.
Well, they've already been on the journey ahead of you, right? So they know. Yeah.
I had a situation where a guy called Andy Kennedy, I was doing some schools missions. It must have been, I think I was about 19. So it was a long time ago. And
very long time.
And we were doing these schools missions in Nuneaton. I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks. And I went back to his and his wife's house for dinner one night, and he handed me this orange baton, like a relay baton. I was like, what the heck? And he'd pulled it out of this cupboard and he just handed it to me. And he said, Shell, you're going to run further and faster in kids ministry than I ever could.
Wow.
And I was so humbled and I felt so humbled. And I don't think I recognised the significance of that moment until years later.
Yeah.
When I just thought, it takes a really secure person to say that and to do that and to act in that way. But also it birthed something in me, and something rose up in me that I don't think at the time I was aware was there. He saw something in me and helped to grow that and helped me to be where I am today. And you can't do it without people like that. You can't do it without those prophetic words that you have from people and those people who are prepared to pray with you and pray for you continually. And, those people who are prepared just to be your cheerleaders and champion you.
Yeah, amazing.
I mean, we know a lot of famous people.
Yeah.
Ministry, business. But the people we talk about today are big people.
Yeah.
Significant people.
Yeah.
Because they saw that it wasn't about fame and fortune. It was about the significance of releasing the next generation. And I just think, what happened to me, what happened to Shell, gave us the foundation to run. So you talk about being on the shoulders of giants. They are giants.
Yeah.
And I think what it also makes you do is that, it establishes a right security in you. That it's not about title. It's not about ministry size. It's about obedience to God, doing your best. But then as you get to a certain position that God's promoted you into, it's then about sharing that, releasing others, letting other people run faster than you and cheering them on.
Yeah.
Having greater altar calls, all sorts of things going on. And you don't sit there and go, oh, are they having that? And I didn't get that. You're like, fantastic.
Yeah.
This is what I was born for.
Yeah.
And I think, for me, when I see people run faster even today and achieving the potential of all that, there's just a massive yes inside me. There's not oh no. It's not like, oh, I'm going home soon. God's had enough with me. I don't think like that, because I always know that God, will utilize and use me where he wants, but I just don't have to name where. And I don't have to put the title on myself. I think just that big yes when people are running faster is the greatest. So, John Maxwell says success is found in our successors. And I think more people need to actually take that to heart as
Yeah.
leaders.
We do that on the Lions. You
Yeah.
know, we release possibility. One of our values is we champion. You know, we champion those people around us. We champion our delegates. You know, we champion people in our team because we want to see people run further. We want to see people run faster. We want to see people released into all of the things that God has asked them to do. Because we want to build that sense of legacy. You know, there's over 200 people that have been through the Lions programme since it first started, you know, over 13 years ago. And that's a lot of people and a lot of projects that are represented. And I just think, what an honour. Like, what a privilege, what a joy to be able to play a small part. You know, and if any one of those 200 people look back at their time on the Lions programme and even remember just one thing that we helped them to overcome or instilled into them or taught them, then we're leaving legacy. And it's a privilege.
And of course, you've picked up legacy.
Yeah, totally.
So you're riding on the shoulders of others that have laid the foundation of Lions, and you're now laying legacy.
Yeah.
So the whole perpetual thing of this is not just organisational, it's transformational.
Yeah.
And so, you know what, I mean, both of you have been through Lions, I know, but, you know, Sheldon's now leading the Lions on the legacy of others that have gone before her.
Yeah.
But there will be others that, you know, hopefully, if God still wants things to move forward, go on Shell's shoulders in that way. So we are continuing in something that isn't about us.
Yeah.
And we don't own. We're just being used by God in a way to perpetuate and to see lives transform.
Yeah.
Amazing. So how do you keep kingdom legacy in your business? How do you keep building it? How do you keep installing it in the business that you're running? I know that you've touched on thinking generationally, looking at who you're mentoring and training and raising up, but are there any other ways that we can keep legacy at the heart of what we're actually building? We've experienced it for ourselves, but how do we keep that going forwards?
I think, you know, every leader needs to, I've said this before and I'm going to say again, but needs to keep eternity at the centre of the motivation and the momentum of the organisation.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, how do you keep legacy? Well, you keep legacy that's something beyond what's happening today. God is trying to happen, you know. And I think, you know, we talk about Lions and we talk about people with possibility. Well, we want to turn that possibility into reality. We don't just want to keep it possibility.
Yeah.
We want to be able to land it in people and go, you can do this. And actually, it's probably greater than you've ever thought. But, you know, you've got to bring God at the centre of all the other things we say.
Yeah.
And I think within every organisation, to keep legacy central, it's always talking about eternity. It's always talking beyond ourselves. It's always talking into the next generation. And I do believe every generation brings a fresh wave of ideas, creativity, thinking. I do not like all the ways they bring, including you ladies, when you bring things to me. I am challenged. But the issue is I've got to be open and open into conversation. And if we close down the next generation ideas, we stifle legacy.
Yeah.
If we stop free thinking and disagree all the time with people who are bringing something that's out of our, I guess, realm of thinking and experience, we are going to stifle legacy.
Yeah.
And so I'm very aware of that as a young man, a recycled teenager. I am really aware that that could be within me. You know, I can't sit there thinking, I know best. You know, I've been this way before. Now, I might think that, but I can't live that.
Yeah.
Because if I live that, I'll stifle the next generation and stifle legacy. So you keep legacy alive by allowing the next generation to think, dream, talk, and even their crazy ways. You know, you may guide occasionally, but they've got to feel that they're listened to
Yeah.
and understood.
And the other thing that stifles legacy is selfishness.
Right.
I think selfishness stifles legacy. I don't think you can leave a legacy or instill legacy into others by being selfish and making it all about you. You know,
That comes out of insecurity as well, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Defo.
insecurity and selfishness go together. They will stifle.
Yeah. And, you know, I've had a conversation with somebody before who has set up an organisation with the potential for it to live way beyond them, way beyond them. And they didn't want it to.
Wow.
They were like, it dies with me. It dies with me. And it taught me a lot, actually, that. It taught me an awful lot,
Yeah.
that situation. But in that there was selfishness, and it's all about me, and it's all about what I bring, and it's all about feeding my gifts and my plans and my agendas. And you can't let selfishness get in the way of legacy. You just can't. You can't.
We're living, I believe, today in momentous days. I really do. I know if we listen to the news, we can all get depressed and kind of go, the world's ending. Well, first of all, as Christians, we know that the ending of the world's in God's hands.
Yeah.
So let's first of all establish that in our thinking and our belief system. So don't let Sky News scare you. The other issue is, I think that as we move forward, Luke 10:2 says, the harvest is ripe, but the workers are few.
Yeah.
And just in recent days, people may have heard this, but there's a whole thing coming out from YouGov done a whole survey, and it was actually they were asked to do it by the Bible Society. And we're seeing that in the last 4 years, there's been a resurgence of people going back to church.
Yeah.
In fact, Gen Z, it's up massive. It's like from 8% to 16%.
Yeah.
4%, to 16% now. A lot of it young men.
Brilliant.
All the things that we're asking the question about. 87% more Bibles sold in the last 4 years than it's been sold before.
Wow.
And so this younger generation is asking the right questions. We've just got to make sure we're bringing the right answers.
Yeah.
And I think this whole thing that the harvest is ripe, the workers are few, it's time for really the clergy to get off the platform and release the laity, if I can put it that way. I believe we're all ministers of Christ. I believe God called us all, and we've got to release our congregations like we've never released them before to missionaries in the marketplace.
Definitely.
But what a time for entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
What a time for
Yeah.
pioneers. What a time for people who have got those God-given dreams inside them to actually bring them to the table and be part of that, silent, that we want to be not so silent revival.
Yeah.
That's definitely with it. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a pioneer, I'm a leader, and I have revival like bubbling inside me. I want to see it. And whatever part I can play, whatever I can bring to the table that might help that in some way for God to, to move powerfully. Like I want to do that. I don't want to miss out on that. I have massive FOMO. I hate missing out on things.
Yeah.
And the moves of God and God's, revival, like that's the last thing I want to miss out on.
So kingdom entrepreneurs and pioneers, it's time to dream.
Yeah.
Because even if you've not got the people yet, God is moving. The harvest is ripe. The workers are few. Create conduits, create channels that people can come in, create movements that people can join and express themselves in their love of God in the marketplace and in their sphere. And I just think, often we're waiting for the cloud. The cloud's here.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Often we're waiting for the rain. The rain's here. We've even got, this very legit survey this is Britain.
Yeah.
That's turning things around. Church attendance is increasing. It's amongst the young. No program's done that. But what we've got to dream of ideas to, harness the harvest, release the harvest, show them they're ministers of Christ. They are not pew fillers. They're not people who go to church and just be good.
Yeah.
The message has been wrong for too many years. I'm not on about, about being unrighteous, but righteousness comes from walking with Jesus and serving him.
Yeah.
And we still make mistakes on that journey, but thank God for grace on the cross. And so there's a momentum building. And as we talk today about pioneers and entrepreneurs, lions, this is a day for people to prepare because the harvest is here.
Yeah.
And it's only going to increase. And I said on Sunday, and Michelle just said it, the silent revival it's called, I don't like that name, but anyway, that's what it's called.
Okay.
It's going to turn into a shout revival.
Yeah.
It's going to
Fantastic.
be noisy.
And I
Brilliant.
think part of that is unity.
Yeah.
And I think part of legacy is unity. When people come together, whether it's a team under one organisation, whether it's multiple organisations working together, when people come together and there is unity, the Bible says that God commands a blessing. And I think that's part of legacy. When we come together in unity, God commands the blessing and it opens the doors for legacy.
Amazing.
I don't really know what else. Yeah, that's it.
Well, I think, we've prayed a lot and people have prayed and we need to continue to pray. But I believe it's time to get off our knees and start walking and running. And, not live a protective, apologetic Christian faith, but to live it bold. And pioneers need now to start creating. because the harvest is ripe and the workers are few.
Well, guys, I think that's a great way to end the podcast today. All about legacy. What impact are you going to leave? What impact are you going to instill into your business or your charity or your project? Thank you so much, guys. It's been a great chat today. And thank you for tuning in. What a great podcast. Hope that's inspired you. Until next time, we'll see you then. Take care.